at Breckenridge, at the base of Breckenridge, right next to a ski lift, and I am so excited for winter 2021 snowboarding. I'm a little early, as you can see, it's September, but there's a lot that's changing this season, so there's a lot that we all need to learn and figure out. So we're gonna go back to the office and give you a rundown of everything that's changing for winter 2021, so everybody can get back out on the mountain and stay safe and still have fun. And I'm wearing a mask, so I am set for winter 2021. Masks are essential.
So let's talk about winter 2021 and what the ski season is going to look like for snowboarding and skiers. It's going to look a lot different, so there's a lot of changes we need to go over. Starting with outside. So you'd think that ski resorts being outside would mean that everything can go on just as normal. That's not quite the case, because you still have some potential for crowds, and so resorts need to figure out different ways to keep the crowds to a minimum. Some destinations like Vail Resorts are launching reservation systems, and some of them are also completely removing window ticket sales. That means all ticket purchases will need to be in advance, or you'll have to have a season pass and make a reservation in advance. Top priority goes to the local season passes, followed by multi-passes like Icon, Epic, and Mountain Collective, and then advanced ticket sales will fill in if there are any empty spots left. That's generally how it's going to work across different resorts. None of the resorts are releasing the exact numbers that they're going to allow on the mountain. A-Basin allowed 600 people on the mountain each day, and so you can use that as a reference point. And Aspen Mountains have released some information as well, and they're expecting about 20% fewer visitors to come in. And so they are also not doing a reservation system, but they have changed how their local passes are structured to keep the crowds at a minimum. And also Jackson Hole in Wyoming has stopped selling its season passes, so it's already capped its availability. Another way resorts are keeping crowds lower is using parking reservations. Resorts like Copper Mountain and other independent resorts and Alterra destinations are doing that. And so you'll make a reservation for your car spot, and that way the mountain knows how many people to expect on the mountain on any one day. For Icon pass holders, there is an app where you can reserve your days in advance. And then for Epic pass holders, there's also an online reservation system. Pass holders can reserve up to 7 days far in advance during the season. They have to use up those days before they can reserve more far advance days. Then the individual days during the week will open up a week in advance, and that's when Epic pass holders can pick their days for that week. So there's the advance option as well as the week of option. What that means for you this season is that you won't be able to book multiple big trips at any one time. You'll have to prioritize one before you can book the next. Then once you're on the mountain, you've got your spot, you've got your ticket, you're set to go, you need to make sure you bring one extra piece of equipment this year, and it's a mask. And not all masks are created equal. So you need to check with your local resort and the county restrictions and recommendations to see if the mask that you're bringing is appropriate and approved, so you'll be able to get on the lifts, on the gondola, and mingle around the different common areas. For example, Deer Valley has already said that buffs, or these single layer mask type material, won't be approved. Or if your mask has two-way valves, that doesn't cut it either. What you do need to be able to get on the mountain is a medical grade mask like this, or a multi-layer mask like this that you can just put on whenever you need to wear it, which is most of the time on your mountain. If you're thinking of going the N95 route, you might want to consider how hard it might be to breathe at altitude. You're already at 10,000, 11,000 feet, and adding that additional blockage against breathing might be a little bit too difficult. But the other ones that allow more air through will still provide the protection. If you don't have a mask on, then you won't be allowed on lifts, you won't be allowed on gondolas, and you may be asked to leave the resort. They are taking this very seriously, as they should be. You might want to look to what skiers and riders have said about their experience in New Zealand, because they've gone through winter over our summer. And there, they voiced concerns about the lack of mask enforcement. Lifties were in a tight spot as the main line of enforcement, and some of the guests were worried that not enough of the other guests were wearing their masks. So that's something to keep in mind, especially considering what a hot button issue masks and mask wearing has become in the US. It's definitely a little bit more concerning here. Speaking of lifts, they're technically outside, but at potentially close contact with strangers, and lots of strangers. Vail Resorts is keeping 2 seats empty between snowboarders or skiers who don't know each other. That means it's only seating related parties, which is guests skiing or riding together on a lift, or 2 singles on opposite sides of a 4-person lift, 2 singles or 2 doubles on opposite sides of a 6-person lift, or 2 singles on opposite sides of the larger gondola cabins. That still feels a bit close for comfort to me, and a recipe for a cluster loading. Open air lifts are totally outside, though they're much closer contact with other guests. But gondolas and trams and similar transportation on the resort like that are small enclosed spaces. There are some very tiny 4-person gondolas out there, and there's some that have 8-person capacity, but they're still quite cozy inside, so you might want to look at your trail map and consider your different alternatives and taking more open air lifts around the mountain instead of sticking to the gondolas and trams and indoor things like that. Some resorts are also opening up some new boot pack routes to keep more people outside and avoiding those gondolas as well. So far, Jackson Hole says that it's going to be disinfecting its tram cabins multiple times a day, and it has an electrostatic fogging device that kills viruses, and the touch points will be sanitized daily. Gondola cabins there will also get the same disinfection fogging treatment, but they haven't said exactly how many people will be allowed to ride in the tram at any one time. Plus, Squaw Valley's tram access includes an indoor waiting area, an indoor elevator, an indoor exit area, and an additional indoor space. And the last outside part of the mountain is ski school. And ski school is still in session for this year. The resorts have a plan for keeping groups small, limiting them to private lessons or groups who know each other in general. Plus, instructors and guests will have to complete health screenings before they start their lessons every day. Now it's time to talk about the indoor portion of your skiing and riding day on the mountains. And there is quite a bit that goes on inside, including getting your food, which is a very, very important part of your skiing day. There will be lots of restaurants and cafeterias open on the mountains. Pretty much all of the restaurants are set to be open, but they're changing a few things, like directing the lines in only one direction, limiting the number of people that can be inside eating at any one time, and also limiting the tables inside to only guests who have purchased food at that particular restaurant. The nicer sit-down venues will also still be open. They will just have fewer tables and be limiting their capacity. Considering all of that, I would personally recommend bringing your own food and maybe using your car or your condo as your lunch pit stop location. If you bring your own food, you probably won't be able to go into the lodges to sit and eat it and warm up, because places like A Basin have already said that that's going to be one of their policies. Bars across the mountain will also be pared down. Some will be serving beer and wine, but cocktails won't be a thing, and gathering around the bar won't be a thing either. It's just not safe to have that many people in that close of contact. Another on-mountain must-have, restrooms. They aren't no risk, but you don't have to head for the trees every time nature calls. As long as you make your pit stops speedy and go in and out of the restroom wearing a mask, you should be totally fine. You might see some different things in the restroom, and the hand dryers might not be working this year either, because blowing all that hot air around doesn't sound like a safe situation. So you may need to bring some extra boot warmers and hand warmers as a way to keep your hands and feet warm. Rentals are set to be up and running for everyone who plans ahead. Reservations for gear are going to be just as important as your reservations for on mountain or parking or your lodging. Masks are going to be required for all of the employees and all of the guests when they're working on their rentals, when they're trying on. Plus, all the gear will be sanitized between guests, which you would hope was happening already, but they're definitely doing it now. They're also only going to allow a certain number of guests in the inside rental area at any one time and keep people spaced out as much as possible. Vail Resorts has already said that they're going to expand their rental delivery service, so you may not even need to go into the gear shop. You can pick out your gear and have it sent right to your condo or your hotel room. And if you're bringing your extra gear to stow away, probably don't count on lockers being as usual either. they may not be open at all, or they may be more limited to reduce capacity of people in a small enclosed space. So all the ski resorts are planning to open for 2021. That leaves the big question, will they stay open this winter? How long they're able to stay open depends on all the visitors, that means you, coming in, how many people are wearing masks, and following all of the safety directions that they're giving out. They're not afraid to close down again either. For example, Vail Resorts closed 2 of its resorts in Australia when cases in the nearby region started spiking. States like Colorado and California have tightened restrictions quicker than states like Utah and Idaho. That means that resorts in those regions could close quicker or be more likely to close than those in the looser regulation areas. For the most up-to-date information, all the resorts have added dedicated COVID-19 information pages as well as safety pages to their websites. You can also check their apps to see what the most up-to-date information is and see what you need to bring and what you need to be aware of before you set foot on the mountain. Leave us a comment below about what you're thinking about winter 2021, what you think about the restrictions, the regulations. We hope to see you out on the slopes 6 feet apart, and definitely wear your mask, and we'll see you at the next mountain. I should have just worn a mask this whole time and you could have dubbed over all of this. That would have worked a lot better. Good thing I didn't go into broadcast journalism. That would have been rough. I'm talking to a black hole.